The atmospheric processors hummed their monotonous song as Brian's colony ship descended through Kepler 442b's rust-colored clouds. He'd spent 12 years of his life, savings, and another 15 in cryosleep to reach this abandoned terraforming project, a failed corporate venture now sold off to desperate homesteaders like himself. The planet's designation had been changed to New Manitoba in the registry. Though Brian suspected he might be its only human resident, his boots hit the dusty soil with a crunch. The gravity felt lighter than Earth's 1G, perhaps 0.87, according to his suit's readings. Perfect for aging joints. The air was breathable, though thin, with oxygen levels at 18%. He'd need a week to acclimate fully. The prefabricated farm structures stood exactly where the satellite imagery had shown them: 3 biodomes, a processing facility, and a residential module. All sealed and waiting. Brian smiled beneath his helmet. Peace at last. No corporations, no crowds, no wars over water rights. Just him, his hydroponic gardens, and silence. Then he saw the light in Biodome 3. Brian's hand moved instinctively to the plasma cutter on his Belta tool. Not a weapon, but it would serve. He approached slowly, checking his suit's bioscanner. One life form, humanoid, core temperature 34.2 degrees Celsius. Slightly cooler than human baseline. The airlock cycled with a hiss. Inside, the dome was a jungle. Bioluminescent vines crawled up the walls, pulsing with soft blue light. The original earth crops had been torn out and replaced with vegetation he didn't recognize, fern-like fronds that seemed to track his movement, bulbous fruits that dripped a phosphorescent nectar. And there, among the alien flora, stood Imwele. She was tall, nearly 2 meters, with skin that shifted between deep violet and obsidian depending on how the light struck it. Her eyes were large and golden, with double-slit pupils that contracted sharply as she registered his presence. Most strikingly, a small child, no more than a toddler by proportion, clung to her back, its tiny hands gripping the ridged plates along her spine. "You are the human who purchased this world," Nyla said. Her voice emerged from a translator disc attached to her throat, the standard English crisp and clear despite the clicking sounds her actual mouth produced. Brian kept his hand near the plasma cutter. "I am, and you're trespassing. I was here first." She said it simply, without hostility. "My ship crashed in the northern wastes 4 solar cycles ago. This dome was empty. I made use of it. 4 years?" Brian's mind raced through the legal implications. Squatters' rights didn't apply to interplanetary purchases, but the woman alien had a child. The corporation said this planet was uninhabited. The corporation scans for industrial signatures and large populations. They do not scan for one refugee and her daughter. Nyla's hand moved protectively to the child's head. The little one's eyes were closed, and Brian noticed the slight wheeze in her breathing. "Kiri is sick. The atmosphere here is too oxygen poor for our species. I have been modifying these plants to produce a richer mix, but it takes time." Brian should have ordered them off his property. Should have filed a claim with the Homestead Authority. Instead, he found himself asking, "What happened to your ship?" "Plasma fired during a skirmish near the Terranzo border." "I am Vakari. We are often caught between your conflicts with the Zalaneth." "My mate was killed. I ejected Kiri and myself in an escape pod. We landed here." She gestured at the modified dome. "I have been repairing a distress beacon from salvage, but the power cells are degraded. Perhaps another year before it functions." The child coughed, a wet, rattling sound. Brian recognized that sound. He'd heard it in his own daughter's chest before the lung plague took her. Back on Earth, before he'd given up everything to escape those memories. "The residential module has a medical fabricator," he heard himself say. "Military grade?" "It can synthesize medication for most biochemistries if we provide the right templates." Nyla's golden eyes studied him with an intensity that made Brian uncomfortable. "Why would you help us?" "Because a child is dying," he thought. "Because I couldn't save my own. Because maybe peace isn't just about being alone. Because this planet is big enough for 3 people," he said instead. "Biodome 3 is yours. You keep working on your plants. I could use higher oxygen levels anyway. But you help me with the main crops." Fair trade? You are not what I expected from a human, Nyla said quietly. Yeah, well. Brian deactivated his helmet, breathing the thin air. The war made a lot of us want to be different. Better, maybe. Over the following months, they fell into an unlikely rhythm. Brian taught Nayla about earth agriculture hydroponic techniques, nutrient cycling, seasonal rotation adapted for the 407-day local year. Nyla showed him Vakari bioengineering, how to modify plant genetics to thrive in marginal conditions. Little Kiri, her breathing improved by synthesized medications, toddled between the domes, learning words in 2 languages. Sometimes at night, Brian would stand outside and watch the 3 moons rise over the purple-red fields. He'd come here for peace, for isolation, for escape from humanity's endless conflicts. Instead, he'd found something he hadn't known he needed: purpose, connection, family. Perhaps that was what peace actually meant, not the absence of others, but the presence of those worth building something with. When Nyla's beacon finally activated, broadcasting her survival to any Vakari ships in range, she stood in the doorway of Biodome 3 with the transmitter in her hand, staring at the power switch. Kiri played nearby, healthy now, singing a hybrid song that mixed human nursery rhymes with Vakari harmonics. There is a rescue ship 3 months away, Nyla said. Not looking at Brian, they offered to take us home. What did you tell them? Brian asked, though he already knew. He could see it in the way she'd planted long-cycle crops last week, varieties that wouldn't mature for another 8 months. Nyla switched off the beacon. I told them I was already home. Brian nodded, hiding his relief. Good, we've got a harvest coming in. Kiri's going to need to learn to drive the hauler. In the distance, the atmospheric processors hummed their endless song. But now, to Brian, it sounded less like loneliness and more like a lullaby. The end.